Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day today. Today I will be showing you how to create a stunning landing page for a product with HTML and CSS. So I created an empty folder called landing page Gucci with the images we will need for our project in Visual Studio Code. You can use any editor of your choice, but I prefer Visual Studio Code. It's just preferences. So before we get started, let me show you what our finished product will look like. This is what we're gonna be designing. We're going to create a landing page for Gucci's new product line, which is Gucci Bamboo 1947, which is a handbag. I usually prefer to design my products and websites on Figma before anything, so I could understand where I'm heading and my final layout, how it would be, to prevent any roadblocks and just have my coding session be a lot smoother, since I already know which padding I want, how much font size I want, like 80, and everything around. And if you want to see the finished product with an HTML and CSS, here it is. And I added an animation to the button to make it look a little bit better, and this is what we'll end up coding by the end of the video. Alright, let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is to create our index.html file, which will be where all our code will be and our semantics. Usually an HTML file requires boilerplate, which is easy to get if you have Visual Studio Code. A quick shortcut is Shift !Enter, which will give you all the boilerplate you need for your project to get started. So the title for this will be Gucci Product Showcase. Alright, so that's it, and I'll bring in a few extra tags just for semantic reasons and SEO purposes. The first tag we're gonna need is a meta tag for our description. This will be a meta tag description, and our content will be this: a site for Gucci. When creating an actual site, you should change the content and add the keywords you want for your website to be audited on Google. This is what usually comes out when your website is searched for. Then we'll need to link our style sheet and the favy icon, which will be used for our website. So let me bring that in. Right here is the icon, which is Gucci logo right here. And our style sheet will be in a folder called styles, and the file will be called style.css, which I have not created, and I will create right now to smooth the process out. Let's create a folder called styles, and within that folder, let's create the file where our style will be style.css. This is what all our styles will be for all our elements. And the last thing we need to do is bring over the custom font we'll be using. We need to link that over. So the custom font we'll be using is called Satoshi. It's a very popular trendy font right now that looks great with most web designs. And it's very similar to the one Gucci uses, so it will stay within their product brand guidelines. Alright, so now we got all that set up. In our head tag, we should be ready to start working on our body tag, which will be where all our navigation and heading and image will be. So let's get started on that. Just to take a look that everything's working fine, we'll add a quick h1 tag with hello. Save that and open this up in Light Server. Alright, it's all up and running. Gucci Product Showcase, and there you go. Alright, now that we have that, the first step will be to bring in our header. To create our header, I should say. So usually I prefer adding a header semantics tag for accessibility purpose, which helps when the site is being used by people that have disabilities, which is a good thing. This is HTML semantic tag header. The header tag usually is for any elements that go first. So let's just work with that. And within our header tag, we'll add another HTML semantic element, which is the nav. The nav element defines a set of navigation links for our website. So let's bring that in. And this is where our logo and navigation will be. So for our header, we need to give it a class of a new header so we could style it. All right. So our nav right there. And the nav needs a div. A quick shortcut if you want to make your class div come out is add dot, then put new, your class name, and then click enter, and you'll have your div created for you. Since we don't want this name since it's already a duplicate, we'll take that off and give it a name logo. All right, the next step is to bring in our logo. Since we want our logo to be clickable, we'll wrap it in an anchor tag and have an image inside of it, of our anchor tag. All right, there you go. So that's our href index.html. We added the class name, logo name. Our image has a class name logo, and the src is for the Gucci logo over here. Right there. All right, we have the first one. Let's save that. And now we need to add an ordered list for our navigational elements. All right. Since we want our logo to the left and our navigational elements over here, so that's why we need an unordered list. This unordered list will consist of 4 list items with anchor tags so they can be clickable. All right, let me bring that over. It's a list item, list item, list item, and all of them have a different class name. Just so when the link is current, we'll have that, and this will be so it won't have padding, but I won't be working with that in this project. So there you go. That should add our navigation list to the website. These are the only elements we'll need in our header right now, and let's take a look at how it looks. All right, there's our navigation right here, an unordered list, and our logo's right here, but since it's white, we can't see it right now. Okay. We got our header ready and good to go. The next step is to add this background image with the heading 1, an anchor tag, which will style to look like a button, and a p tag right there. All right, let's get to work on that. So let's add a div with a class called big image. Within big image, we'll have to add another class called overlay, which will contain our h1, our button, our p tag. Okay. To save some time, I'll bring over all that stuff from the completed project. Okay, sorry for that. There's a car going off in the back. All right, so we brought in an h1 Gucci bamboo, a div with our button. We added a div so we can style it, and a p tag that contains the information of our product. The em gives your p tag the appearance that it is in italics. So, which is what we want. So let's save that and take a look. All right, we have our H1, our A tag, and our paragraph. But our background image is not there yet, since we will link it to this div with our CSS, which I will do right now. So this is all the code we'll need for our HTML. The rest will be done with CSS. All right, so let's get started on fixing our CSS now that we have all our elements there. All right, for every project I start, I like to bring in a few global style elements. So this is what I usually bring in. I usually set all the margins to 0, the padding to 0, and box sizing to border box. This right here is a universal selector that adds the style to every element in your web page. We want that to happen because we want any pre-built margins and paddings to be 0, so we can style everything how we want. And the box sizing helps when we want to fix the padding within our div elements, because by default the width and height of an element is not calculated how we want. It's calculated by width, padding, plus the border makes up the element. So this will fix that. If you want to look more into box sizing, you could check out CSS Tricks or W3 School, which was really helpful. All right, so that's what we want. And now let's add some global styles to our body also. We want our background color to be a little bit gray, our font family to be Satoshi, and overflow X hidden. So if the images are too big, we'll prevent the user from being able to scroll left and right. All right, that's it. Boom, now we could see our logo. Now we could either work with the header and style that, or the hero section. I'll save the header for later since we want it to be positioned over the image, and the font's color will be white, so we won't be able to see it if we start working with it right now. So let's start with the hero section first. All right, we got our hero section right there. And what we want is to add an image to this div, a background image to this div right here, big image. And then have this text on top of that image. So let's get started. Got big image. We'll have a height of 100 view height and the width of 100 view width. This tells it to take up the whole visual screen height, and this tells it to take up the whole width from left to right of your screen also, which is the effect we want. We're going to position it relative, so the nav bar will be on top of it when we give the nav bar position absolute. And add a few background properties to it. I'll bring those over to speed up the process. Background says cover, so the image could be centered, and the position of our image will be 50-50, so it could also center it. And then now the last step, so we can actually see the image, is to link it with a background image. We'll add background image. This sets the background image of an element. We'll give it a linear gradient to add some color to the image, make it a little bit darker. And this is the URL to the image that'll be the background for that div right here. You have to do 2 dots because there's 2 folders up. Okay. So this div big image will now have this Gucci image as its background with a linear gradient of 520. Let's take a look at how that looks. See, now we got it how we want it, but it's a little bit too dark, so let's take off the linear gradient. Let's lower that a bit to 0.3. That should do the job right there. There you go. That's what we want now. And now we gotta style our H1, our button, and our pre-tag, which shouldn't take too long. All right. So to do that, we need to add some spacing to our overlay section. We need to add some padding of 200 pixels up and down and 80 pixels left and right. All right. So we want this overlay to have padding within itself, so it won't be so pushed up how it is here. So we're gonna add padding to the left to push it in, and padding to the top to push it down, to give it the appearance that we have here. So this is what we're doing here with our overlay padding. Let me save that, and now we'll have it positioned where we wanted it, right there. See? Now we gotta do is edit the H1, the button, and the P tag on their own. All right, to speed things up, I'll bring over the styles we already created for the H1 and the finished product. So this is how we're gonna style our H1 tag, which is right here over the H1. We wanted to have a font size of 80 pixels. The text transform will make it go uppercase, a line height of 90%, the color to be FFF, and the font weight 400. So it'll be regular, not bold, since when you usually use the H1, the automatic font weight will be 700, so we're lowering that since we want it to look the different way. So there you go. Now it looks how we want it there. Now we gotta do is style the button and style the text, the P tag. The next step is to style the button. Our button right here is the A tag with a class of contact. That's what we're gonna style. So we're gonna take overlay contact. We want the underline to be gone, which is the text decoration. We want it to have a border of 2 pixels solid white, no background transparent. The font color should be white. The font size should be 16, and this padding right here will give it the illusion that it's a button by adding space within the element. The font weight a little bit thicker since we want it to stand out, and uppercase as well, and a transition of 0.4 seconds with ease in, ease out, since we're gonna add a hover animation to it. All right, take a look. Now it looks how we want it, but it's all bunched up, so we'll add some margin to it. All right, that should do it. Context section, add some margin top. This is right here. We're giving margin top to that section, which is what that should do the job. And before we take a look, let me add the hover animation to the button. Overlay.contact.hover. This is how you add a hover animation. We want the background to go from white transparent to black, the border to go black, and the border to appear like as a pill. We want the from going to squared into a pill type of button. So let's take a look now that we added all this, and it should look good. There you go. Boom. Everything looks good. Now we just gotta fix our P tag, which shouldn't take too long. All right, let's edit this P tag. So to select that, we need to work with div class overlay and target the P tag right there. So this is how we would do it. Overlay P That's how you would target it. Since right now our paragraph is taking up 100% of its div container, and that's not what we want. We want it to be tightly in how we have it here. So to do that, we'll have to add a width of 40%, which is a max width. So we're telling it not to go all the way over here. We want it to stop somewhere around here, which is 40% of its container. We want the font size to be 16 pixels. We want it to have a margin top of 80, so this will be separated, and a color of FFF, and the line height of 150. So once we save that, we should have the effect we want. There you go. Now it looks just how we have it over here. All we gotta do now is fix our nav to be on top of our background image, not how we have it here. This shouldn't be too hard. Alright, that's it for our background section, or the big image in our overlay. So now let's work on that nav bar to complete this stunning landing page. Just add a description so we know what we're working with. And we're gonna be working with header, new header right here, and we're gonna be working with this property. So we want to target this class and this nav. So it'll be new header, and then we'll target the nav. Since we want it to be on top of our image, we're gonna give it a position absolute and a top 0, so it could be on the top of the page, and the left 0, so it could be aligned however we want it. And that should place the element where we want it, but the problem is that it's gonna be behind the image, so we won't be able to see it. So you see now everything's working well, perfect, but it's behind here. To fix that, you need to give your element a z-index of 1 or 2, but I usually go with 99 to make sure it stands on top of everything. So that should put it now where you want it, on top like this, but you could see that it's not styled correctly now. So we'll work on that. That's due to the fact that this logo is taking up so much space, and we need to display flex it so it could be aligned horizontally instead of vertically. Okay, now we're gonna give it the width we want. This will provide the width for our section, which is 100% minus 40 pixels to the right. And we're gonna add 40 pixels to the left also, so it could look good. And this will be what will make be side by side. Display flex will fix it. Now they're standing next to each other, and we want them to be evenly displayed, so we want to use justify content space even, space between. We'll give our element the space between we want and separate them, and we want them to be aligned center, and the aligned center, we want our aligned items to be centered within that div component. All right, that should be good. Now we have it how we want, but this still is too down. That's due to the fact that this thing has a max height that's taking up all this area. So we're gonna fix that. All right. Next step is to fix our logo's width. So to do that, it shouldn't be too hard. Let's bring that over, new header. We're gonna pick that class right here. Then this logo, and we're gonna give it a max width and a max height of 100 pixels. There you go. Now it's where we want it. And the last step for our product is to display our unordered list flex instead of how it usually is vertically. Display flex is great for when you want to have custom layouts that are aligned horizontally instead of vertically, which is what HTML usually works with on its own. Alright, so we want our new header, nav, unordered list. Now we're gonna style, take off those bullet points with list style none, and display flex so they could all be aligned next to each other. Horizontally, let's take a look. See? Took away the bullet points and now they're next to each other. All we gotta do is change the color, add some padding between them, and take off that underline from the text decoration and we should be done. Alright, so I'll bring that stuff in just to make this process a little bit faster since we've been going a little bit long. This should finish up our design. So I added new header, nav, li to target all the LIs. We're giving them padding of 10 pixels and font size 16 pixels, which should give our elements space between each other and remove those unwanted underlines. And then we're going to target our anchor tags and make them white and take off the underlines. So after that, we should have what we want. There you go. That's what we wanted. And let's not forget the last one. Text transform, uppercase. There you go. Now it looks how we want it to. Our stunning landing page for Gucci Bamboo 1947 is complete. Boom. Here's our website that we wanted. And here's the finished product. That should be all for the tutorial. Thanks for watching. And if you have any more questions, just let me know. And have a great day.